In 325 CE, one man controlled an empire stretching from Spain to Mesopotamia. He commanded the largest army on earth. He could execute anyone, seize any property, crush any rebellion, but he couldn't convince a group of North African peasants to change how they thought about baptism. Picture Constantine at the Council of Nicaea, dressed in imperial purple, surrounded by 300 bishops who deferred to his every gesture. Now picture a dusty village in North Africa where Donatist Christians simply refuse his ruling. Same emperor, same absolute power, completely different outcomes. This paradox reveals something fundamental about the limits of political authority over religious belief. Constantine inaugurated a problem that would define Western civilization for the next 17 centuries, and we're still wrestling with it today. Constantine didn't merely tolerate Christianity, he actively transformed its position in Roman society. The progression happened fast. In 313, the Edict of Milan legalized Christianity. By 317, Christians were appealing directly to Constantine to settle internal disputes. Throughout the 320s, he passed legislation favoring the church, tax exemptions, property grants, elevated status for bishops. Then in 325, he convened the Council of Nicaea, the first gathering of bishops from across the entire Christian world. At Nicaea, Constantine appeared to function as head of the church. Bishops treated his word as authoritative. He presided over their deliberations. But here's the structural limitation that changed everything. Constantine was not a bishop, he was not ordained, he could not perform sacraments, the sacred rituals like baptism and communion that Christians believe conveyed divine grace. Unlike Islamic caliphs who could merge political and religious authority in one person, the Roman emperor could not unilaterally legislate for the church. This created something genuinely new, a church-state relationship that was blended but not fused. Two overlapping spheres of authority with a contested space between them. This tension wasn't theoretical. It exploded in the Donatist controversy. During Diocletian's persecution from 303 to 311, Roman authorities demanded Christians surrender their scriptures. Some priests complied, an act called traditio, literally handing over. When the persecution ended, a faction in North Africa drew a hard line. These traditors had betrayed Christ. Their hands could no longer channel divine grace. Any sacraments they performed were invalid. The Donatist position raised a profound question. Is the church only as good as its officials? Or does the sacred office transcend the moral failures of the man holding it? In 317, the Donatists appealed to Constantine himself to settle the matter. Constantine ruled against the Donatists. The traditors' sacraments were valid. The matter was settled, except it wasn't. The Donatists simply refused to comply. They continued their separate churches, their separate bishops, their separate baptisms for the next 300 years. The emperor, who could crush rebellions and execute rivals, couldn't change how North African peasants thought about baptism. His decrees, his judges, his threats, all the machinery of imperial power that worked perfectly for tax disputes and property claims proved useless against people whose identity was forged in persecution. The same pattern emerged with an even more explosive controversy. A priest named Arius taught that Christ, while divine, was subordinate to God the Father. Christ emanated from God. There was a time when he was not. This wasn't abstract philosophy. It struck at the heart of Christian identity. If Christ wasn't fully equal to God, what did that mean for salvation, for worship, for everything Christians believed? Constantine convened Nicaea specifically to resolve this dispute. The council produced the Nicene Creed declaring Christ homoousios, of one substance, with the Father, co-equal, co-eternal, begotten, not made. The council spoke. The emperor endorsed it. The matter was settled. Except it wasn't. Arianism persisted for generations. Constantine's own successors sometimes favored Arian bishops. The controversy raged for another 50 years until the Council of Constantinople in 381. Two major theological disputes, two imperial interventions, two failures to achieve lasting resolutions through political power. The pattern was clear. Belief cannot be compelled. Conviction resists coercion. Why did imperial power fail so completely? Consider what Constantine was working with and working against. His tools, decrees, imprisonment, property confiscation, social exclusion, execution. These worked brilliantly against ordinary resistance, but these Christians had spent 3 centuries being persecuted. Imprisonment meant nothing to people who celebrated martyrs. Property confiscation meant nothing to communities that embraced poverty as virtue. Execution meant nothing. In fact, death was victory, not defeat. Constantine's power was designed to threaten what people valued. These people valued things his power couldn't touch. Constantine's conversion raises a question that would define the next 1500 years of Western history. What happens when the church moves from persecuted minority to established majority? 2 interpretations emerged, and neither has ever fully won. The providential view: God worked through history. Imperial power spread the gospel to every corner of the empire. The church fulfilled its universal mission. The Trojan horse view: worldly power corrupts. The church gained the world but lost its prophetic voice. It could never return to its original charismatic foundations. Both interpretations contain truth. The tension between them never resolved. This tension points to an even deeper question about the church's fundamental identity. Is the church a collection of special people with eyes fixed on heaven, set apart from the compromises and corruptions of worldly power? Or is it a universal society engaged with the world, involved in business, politics, the full scope of human life and death? St. Augustine would theorize about this 75 years after Nicaea, developing the concept of 2 cities, the city of God and the city of man. But even Augustine couldn't resolve what Constantine had inaugurated. The tension was built into the structure. Every time we debate whether religious leaders should influence politics or whether governments should regulate religious practice, we're still wrestling with Constantine's problem. He created a relationship between faith and power that was close enough to matter, but separate enough to conflict. That structural tension, born in the 4th century, remains unresolved in the 21st.